You know Gray Bar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
We're just all off in the way that we are recording today. Everything is weird. We've got a dog standing over the microphone right now. We're sitting next to each other in the same room, not in New York City.
Not in New York City, no.
We've recorded 2 of our segments already, and now we're coming back for segment number 1. So it's like that Seinfeld episode where they go to the wedding in India and they do the whole episode backwards. Everything's weird today. I don't know what's going on.
Well, first off, let me say it is very lovely to be here in your home.
Hey, good to have you.
Yeah, in lovely Denver, Colorado, which I have not seen much of because I got in very late last night and have been working all day, but I have been spending all day in your apartment and it is very wonderful. If anybody gets a chance to rent it on Airbnb, wait for my review later. I'm going to be here all weekend, so
there's still time for things to go
4-star or
awry.
5-star. We're still on the edge, but
still time for things to be screwed up.
Yeah. But no, this is a very special episode.
Yeah, this is a very special episode. This is the 165th episode of the show before the show. Wherever you're tuned in, we thank you for tuning in. We were supposed to have a third member of the tripod here for the weekend, but unfortunately Josh Jackson came down with a case of like Marburg fever or something, and so he'll not be here with us this weekend. And get well soon, Josh. We love you. Which I know he'll listen and then text me and be like, "Oh, you jerks had to point out that I couldn't make it this weekend." Sorry, Josh. We had to.
We just do it because we want to say we love you, Josh. That's all.
But yeah, exactly, Josh. Jeez. But yeah, we've got like a full weekend plan. We're gonna hit up the Colorado Rockies game coming up on Saturday. We're recording this on Thursday. Our apologies for getting it to you a day late, but we figured recording together would be all kinds of fun.
Right.
So we're doing that. We're gonna, I don't know, do some other stuff. We're going to go to the mountains tomorrow. Hang out in the mountains.
We're going to see the Rockies on Saturday, and we're also going to see the Rockies.
The real Rockies.
On Friday.
Followed by the baseball Rockies on Saturday.
Right.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of fun stuff coming up for you on this episode of the show before the show, including when Leica, the official mascot of the show before the show, shakes her collar right next to the microphone as we're interviewing Colorado Rockies number 6 prospect Garrett Hampson coming up in a little bit. Then Leica, I think, knocks the microphone almost over at some point, so you can listen for those. They're like little Easter eggs in this episode. We'll hear from Benjamin Hill coming up here in a little bit. This is a very Colorado-themed episode, fittingly enough. You're here, Garrett Hampson, Rockies prospect. The rookie-level Orem Owls appear to be on the verge of moving to Pueblo, Colorado. We'll cover that news coming up a little while later with Benjamin Hill when we discuss Ben's latest road trip and that news, among other topics. It's a Centennial State kind of episode, Sam.
Yeah, I wish I could say that was fully by design, as if we controlled.
We just kind of fell into
Orem
it.
was going to announce this week, and also that they were going to head to Pueblo, Colorado, of all places. But no, I mean, like it. There is one thing we should mention, though, that makes this a very special Colorado-centric episode. It's your birthday.
It is my birthday. It is my birthday.
Everybody will be hearing this too late, but it's never too late to say happy belated birthday.
Hey,
so
thanks.
I won't say how much you're turning.
Thanks. Yeah, no, it's okay.
It's a very Larry Bird number.
It is a very Larry. Yeah, it's very Larry Bird.
Yes.
And very Larry Walker, my favorite baseball player of all time. As we watch. Fittingly enough, the Rockies present to me on my birthday will be them blowing a 3-run lead in the 8th inning or later. Be the same team that I've watched my entire life. So with that, we welcome you into the 165th episode of the show before the show, and we will get started. It is like prospect promotion day everywhere across the minor leagues. We got all kinds of big news earlier today. The Chicago White Sox promoted like everybody in their system so far today. Eloy Jimenez is making the jump to AAA Charlotte. Dylan Cease is making the jump to AA Birmingham. Luis Robert is... Didn't we discuss earlier in the season that Luis's last name is probably just said Robert?
Yeah,
because he's not French, and I don't know why I always say Robert.
Yeah.
Luis Robert is going up to Class A Advanced Winston-Salem from Class A Kannapolis. Big jumps all over that system. Top-ranked prospect is Jimenez, so he's going to Charlotte. Dylan Cease is number 5. Luis Robert is the third-ranked prospect. But this is we've discussed over the last several seasons, All-Star break time around the minors is when teams really like to make these promotions. This is a lot of promotions in the White Sox system.
Yeah, I'm almost glad that we did delay the podcast by a day because this all happened today. If we had come out Wednesday,
True.
We'd be like, who is going to be promoted? We're not entirely sure yet. There was some news last night, and we'll get to that later. But pretty much all 3 strikes this week are going to be devoted to promotions. So starting out with the White Sox, who put out a press release just saying, here's everybody who's moving. And the 3 ones that Tyler mentioned that caught our eye were Eloy Jimenez, Luis Robert, and Dylan Cease. Jimenez, really excited to see him go to Charlotte. Not just because he is, the number 3 overall prospect in the game right now, might have the best power potential in all of the minor leagues, but Charlotte has a launching pad of a home stadium in BB&T Ballpark, one of the best in the International League, maybe one of the best in all of AAA, including some of the places in the Pacific Coast League, like Albuquerque. We'd love to see what he could do over half a season in the PCL, but if he's going to go to the IL, Charlotte's a pretty fun place for him to play. Certainly earned it this year, given the first half he had in the Southern League with AA Birmingham. Hit .317 with a .556 slugging percentage. That slugging percentage led all of Southern League bats. Produced a .925 OPS, hit 10 home runs. Basically did exactly what we would expect Jimenez to do. Missed part of the beginning of the season with an injury. Came back, didn't look any worse for wear. Had a streak in there somewhere, I wish I had the number off the top of my head, where he had extra base hits left and right. We thought he could have been promoted then. After he ended last year in Birmingham, the White Sox decided to wait for him, so he could get recognized at the AA Southern League All-Star game this week. Once that happened, the All-Star break ended on Wednesday. Games were going to start picking up again on Thursday. Promote him then. He's already the number 3 hitter in that Charlotte lineup. Really excited to see what he can do there. White Sox obviously not in the time to really push guys in terms of pushing them to the majors, not competing really that much, even though the AL Central, isn't that competitive this year, at least with the Indians trying to run away with it. But would still expect Jimenez to be in Charlotte for a good long while, even if he does post some video game numbers there at home. Dylan Cease moving up to Birmingham. Really excited for what he's been able to do this year. He came over with Jimenez in last year's trade from the Cubs, just changing Chicago farm systems. Somebody who had Tommy John surgery back in 2014, fully healthy now, and has really shown that this year. 2.89 ERA with Winston-Salem, 82 strikeouts in 71 2/3 innings. Has shown a plus fastball, can certainly run that up to the high 90s, even touching triple digits when he wants to at times in the past. He has a plus curveball as well. That's a pitch that's really going to get swings and misses. The question with him has been his control, but this is the first time that his walk rate has dipped below double digits in terms of percentages. Has really worked on that very well. Is holding up extremely well in the first half of the season, already at 71 2/3 innings pitched. Health does not seem to be a worry with him. I think he threw 8 innings in his last start for the Dash. So he'll start to really get pushed with this jump to AA with the Barons. As we always say, the jump from Class A advanced to AA is the toughest in the minors. Really going to be interested to see what happens when he gets tested, against bats who will be more patient against him and, who know his stuff can be really good, are going to push him to add a third pitch in his changeup. The growth he had shown in the first half, now it's time to put that to the test with Birmingham. And the third one I want to mention is Robert. They signed him last year for $26 million. That was just before new bonus rules kicked in. Nobody's going to come close to touching that for a while. It's more of a hard cap now. But they really love his speed, how that translates to both the base paths and in center field. He's got an above average arm. Had a thumb injury that held him back to begin the year. I think a lot of people wanted him to start the year at Winston-Salem anyways. Got held back, didn't get moved to Kannapolis until the beginning of this month. Only played 13 games with him. They saw enough there. It was basically like a rehab assignment. So now he's at Winston-Salem, where we all kind of expected him to be. Only 20 years old. as advanced as he was coming out of Cuba with some pro experience, still being a 20-year-old at Class A advanced is about on time with him. Expect for him to be there for a little while. But again, that above average speed is going to play pretty much everywhere. He's going to be an asset defensively no matter where he goes. Now, is he going to be able to tap into his potential above average power? He's yet to homer with Kannapolis before getting this call up. Is that going to play in the Carolina League? We'll be keeping an eye on that. But the White Sox, for a system that is very promising and for a fan base that is looking to move those prospects quickly, Thursday was certainly a big day and an exciting day, and now we get to see what happens after all these tests.
Strike two, we're going to stay in the same division in the American League Central. The Minnesota Twins promoted their number 5 prospect, Alex Kirilloff, friend of the podcast, although pre-Tommy John surgery friend of the podcast. Alex Kirilloff goes from the Class A Cedar Rapids Colonels to the Class A Advanced Fort Myers Miracle. And for Kirilloff, this has been a season where you've seen pretty gigantic incremental progress from month to month, and every single number that he has put up in his slash line from month to month has gotten better. His slash line in April, 254, 289, 451. May, 360, 423, 640. June, 373, 440, 716. Some guys just want a 716 OPS. Alex Kirilloff has a 716 slugging percentage in the month of June. There wasn't a whole lot left for him to prove at this stage at the Class A level in the Midwest League. But again, a guy was selected to an All-Star team, got a chance to play in an All-Star game, went 1 for 4 in the Midwest League All-Star game, and got his promotion to Class A Advance. For Kirilloff, a guy who was a first-round draft selection back in 2016, he's still just 20 years old, and it's kind of crazy because we remember him, jumping into pro ball, joined the podcast, and all of a sudden Tommy John surgery in the spring of 2017, misses the entire season, and you think, well, how much is that going to throw off his development? It doesn't seem like it's thrown it off at all, and maybe this is a bit of an accelerated push that he's forcing because of how well he's played. But if you would have said when he was drafted in 2016, by mid-2018 he's going to be in Class A Advanced, I think that's exactly where you would have wanted him to be, or maybe even a little bit further along than where you would have thought he could have been. But being an elite level talent, a guy who was such a high draft selection and is such a dynamic player, Kirilloff is really right now riding the kind of wave that you want a guy to be riding when he gets a promotion. And so for him, he's the 98th ranked overall prospect in all baseball, going to get a chance to join a good Fort Myers team in the Florida State League and test himself against really that first weeding out level. The Class A Advanced and AA levels, kind of the spots where you figure out who you're going to be as a ball player when you climb to the upper minors, when you make it to the major leagues. So for Alex Kirilloff and for Minnesota Twins fans, it's pretty exciting. And as we have seen in the Twins organization in recent weeks, making it to the major leagues is not a given. It's not a godsend. It's not a statement that you're going to be there forever, as Miguel Sano can attest. We've seen so much talent climb through that system in recent years. For Alex Kirilloff, this is a chance to establish himself, I think, as the elite guy that everybody expects him to be, and make that a firmly entrenched thing as he climbs the upper minors. The injury is behind him. The dominant statistical showing is popping up right now. This is a pretty cool move for him at this stage in the season, and pretty exciting for Twins fans.
Yeah, one thing that he's really shown people in this first half is that he can be healthy. That Tommy John surgery for position players. We said it with Gleyber Torres, and Gleyber Torres is certainly showing that now. It's not as worrisome as it is for pitchers. Obviously, they don't need those arms, even for outfielders, as much as pitchers do. But I think he's becoming one of those hitters that could be both good average and good power. And those guys are rare. I mean, it's usually one or the other. It's so you look at somebody like Royce Lewis in that same system, who has a chance to be a very, very good hitter. We don't think he's going to play into that power. Kirilloff is kind of doing both of those things, and you look at him, you look at somebody like Joe Adell. These are guys who are first-round talents who are becoming all-around offensive forces. And Adell got promoted to Class A Advanced Inland Empire a couple weeks ago in his first full season. Kirilloff, after losing last year, is essentially on that same path now. These guys are getting rewarded. Adell gets to play in the California League and gets to enjoy all the hitting environs there. Kirilloff is really going to be tested in the FSL. He's going to be playing in some big parks and some places that are, not designed for hitting, or don't play well for hitting. And if he can continue to be a plus hitter and a plus power hitter, we're talking about him as maybe a top 50 prospect by season's end.
Strike three, another promotion. Detroit Tigers organization, Sam. Alex Faedo, the first-round selection last year out of the University of Florida, is moving up now to the AA Erie Seawolves. A guy who was terrific in his start to the season. He's actually already made one start so far for AA Erie, but in his first 12 outings with Class A Advanced Lakeland, a 3.10 ERA, 51 strikeouts against 13 walks in 61 innings, an opponent average of 217 and a whip of 1.02. Terrific start to the year for him. An aggressive promotion, maybe not the most unexpected thing, but not flat out dominance in Class A Advanced, but I like that he's going to be challenged now going up to Erie.
Yeah, and the reason I want to talk about this for strike three is I got to talk to him after that AA debut for Erie. He had to face the AA New Hampshire Fisher Cats, which might be one of the most, it definitely is it might be the most feared lineup in all of AA. I'd put it up there with San Antonio maybe. Even with Vlad out, you're still facing Bo Bichette, Kevin Biggio, a couple other big names in that lineup. And he handled himself well. Only gave up 2 hits, 2 runs, struck out a season-high 7 over 6 innings. Really, handled himself well in that debut. And when the Tigers took him in the first round last year out of the University of Florida, they went on to win the College World Series for the first time. They did that before that happened, but he was a really strong part of that staff. One thing that got people really excited about him was that he was showing velo in the high 90s during that College World Series run. And, the Tigers, we talked to him last year on the podcast.
We did.
He was one of our guests, which was kind of fun because he wasn't pitching. We got to talk to him a little bit about that. Go find that interview. What it's like to get drafted, to sign, and then get sent to the extended spring training facility and just kind of have to sit around because he had thrown too many innings with Florida. So, after all that rest and after that first build-up through an off-season, first spring training, they send him to Class A Advanced Lakeland. Handles himself well, like Tyler mentioned, with all those numbers. Not, tearing down the level by any means, but certainly handling himself. And an ERA around 3 is good. You'll take that from any pitcher. But, over the weekend, Al Avila, general manager of the Tigers, said, yeah, we've noticed his velocity's down a little bit. It's usually around like I said, in the College World Series, it was upper 90s. He was getting clocked at 97 pretty regularly. Now it's usually in the low 70s, or low 90s, excuse me. That's where he's kind of sitting. So I asked Faedo about it, and he essentially just shrugged it off. He said, this is kind of who I am. I feel like I'm throwing exactly how I've always been throwing. If you want to hold me to the standard of pitching in a College World Series when I'm trying to win a title in my last year, I'm going to be a little amped up. I'm going to throw a little harder. That's just natural. Now I'm trying to, last a full season. He doesn't feel like anything's different. His slider is still a very special pitch. He's mentioned now that he's no longer relying on his coach to call the game. He's allowed to kind of shrug off pitches a little bit more, throw what he wants to throw. He's throwing more changeups than he has. He feels more comfortable with that pitch. And, those are 3 pitches that are going to be a starting pitcher starting kit for anybody. Right now, that Tiger system is loaded with starting pitchers. Franklin Perez has been injured, but Matt Manning has looked really good with Class A West Michigan at times. Bo Burrows, who is now his teammate at AA Erie, Kyle Funkhauser, and then they draft Casey Mize first overall. I asked Faedo, how do you kind of view yourself in that system now that it's loaded up on arms? That's more really good starting pitchers than there is for traditional 5-man rotation. And he said, listen, you look at the Houston Astros right now. Last year they were really good with the bats. Right now they're really good with the arms. That's what we would love to be someday, just loaded up and down 1 through 5. And if I can play a role in that, that'll be great. If I can rub off on them, if they can rub off on me, I'm really excited to build something here in Detroit. And, by them moving him up, being a college guy, he's going to be a little bit more advanced. You're going to be able to push him a little bit more, even if the velocity's down a little bit. He still has that confidence. Maybe we're talking about a major league debut for him next year, but Detroit really in a rebuild now, showing that they're going to be able to trust Faedo. They'll be able to do the same thing with Casey Mize whenever he makes his debut, whether that's this year or next year. A lot to like in that Tiger system, and Faedo is certainly one of that.
A lot of foul balls to get to as well, Sam. There have been promotions. I mean, we've still got stuff coming in today as far as other promotions across the minor leagues. Carter Kieboom has headed up another step in the Washington Nationals organization. Tell us about that, some of the other news around the minors today.
Yeah, so Kieboom moves up to Double-A Harrisburg. The lead I did for that story was last time Harrisburg got a really exciting prospect. It was Juan Soto, and then he was gone, I think, 8 games later. So,
not a lengthy stay for Juan Soto.
Yeah, so hopefully we can tell Harrisburg fans like Kieboom will be there a little bit longer. I don't think there's an opening for him in Washington in the same way there was with Soto, but hey, who knows? We thought the same thing about Soto. We thought he would be in the Eastern League for a while. Still very exciting. Kieboom, like Soto, had some injury issues last year. Has been fully healthy this year. Is fully playing up to his potential. Again, somebody who could be a pretty decent hitter. I think the power tool is a little ahead of the hit tool right now, but that's really cool for being a shortstop. No real question about him sticking to shortstop right now. Maybe that conversation changes. Maybe he has to move to third base. The higher up he goes, he is kind of a big-bodied shortstop, but we're in kind of the age where that doesn't matter anymore. If you can hit and play a little bit of short, that's going to work. So he certainly works in that way. We'll see how his power plays at Double-A, but yeah, another exciting top 100 guy on the move.
Minor league baseball this time of year, keep an eye on all of your favorite players because they're probably headed somewhere if they're doing very well. Double-A leagues are a little bit different. There are some later All-Star breaks around Double-A, and the Triple-A All-Star game is not until July 11th. So if you're looking at guys moving in the upper levels of the minor leagues, there's a chance that those guys might not be moved until later this month or early on next month. But yeah, like we've talked about before, All-Star breaks are a very popular time for prospects to get promoted. It kind of helps you ease your way into the next level a little bit more easily because you're not quite as rushed schedule-wise and all that type of stuff. So keep an eye on where your players are right now because there's a chance that they could be changing settings coming up very soon. One guy has no more settings to change in the minor leagues, and we will talk with him coming up next. Garrett Hampson, the Colorado Rockies' 6th-ranked prospect, has torn up pretty much every level since he has joined the organization back in 2016. Got things started with Boise in the Class A Short Season Northwest League, was terrific during his debut season. Last year, tore things up for Class A Advanced Lancaster. This year, so far, dominated Double-A Hartford and has gotten a really good start under his belt with Triple-A Albuquerque. That's where we find him, Garrett Hampson, joining the show in episode 165 of the Show Before the Show from MILB.com, coming up next. Headed to the Colorado Rockies organization this week, and there we find Rockies' 6th-ranked prospect infielder Garrett Hampson, who joins the show, member of the AAA Albuquerque Isotopes. Garrett, what's going on? Welcome to the show, man. How are you?
Thank you, guys. I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for joining us. So you are now several weeks into your stay with Albuquerque. Started the season, 38 games with Double-A Hartford. Great start to the year. 304 average through 38 games with an OPS of 857. You've jumped up to Albuquerque and kept on doing exactly what you've done through the entirety of your professional career so far. 286 through your stay in Albuquerque with an 812 OPS, 29 games there. That is the thing that has stood out most about your career. Since being a third-round pick in 2016 of the Rockies out of Long Beach State, your consistency has been really impressive. How the transition to pro ball for so many guys, there's so many peaks and valleys, and I'm sure it's felt like you've experienced those, but it seems like every single level that you've been at, you've been so consistent. What do you think has contributed to that so far early on in your pro career?
I think coming from Long Beach State, just a great program. Fortunate to be around some great coaches, and they kind of just, I think, mentally prepare their players for certain situations that pro ball brings up. Just kind of, I would like to say I'm mentally tough. I don't think I get too down or too up when I'm doing good, or too low if I have a bad game. So I think just being able to be consistent and getting back to like the green and how you feel, and I think that helps a lot.
Yeah, and you mentioned your time at Long Beach State and how that kind of helped you get to where you are, and how that was a kind of good start leading into your start with the Rockies. But what is something you were doing during your time at Long Beach that you think has translated well, or something you're still using to this day, even now at AAA?
I mean, I think just focusing on the little things. I think being able to just help the team first mentality, and not get caught up in stats or any of that stuff. I mean, I think if you go out and just try to win baseball games, I think that's the most important thing. If you just focus on that, I think your individual, stats or how you're playing will always kind of be more consistent.
And as Tyler mentioned, you drafted out of Long Beach State. You go to you spend all of 2017 at Class A Advanced Lancaster, but only 38 games this year with Hartford before they move you up to Albuquerque. Did it feel like you had earned that call up, or what was your kind of approach when they said, hey, by the way, we know it's only been a couple weeks, but we're already bumping you up to the PCL?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I was shocked, but I wasn't expecting that early. But I mean, like I said earlier, you just can't really expect. You don't really expect when it's going to happen or what's going to happen. I think you can just control what you do there. I'm not worried about, I wasn't worried about getting to AAA as fast as possible, or I'm not worried about getting to the big leagues as fast as possible. I'm just focusing on every day, approaching it the same way, and if that happens, it happens.
Garrett, one of the things the Rockies organization has emphasized so much in recent seasons is the ability to play multiple positions. And for you, it's been shortstop, your college position, second base. You've also gotten some time in the outfield recently, and I know you played there. We're recording this on the 21st. You played there a couple of days ago for the Isotopes against Nashville. Tell us what that's been like. In conversations that I've had with Zach Wilson, the Rockies player development director, the conversation is always, we want these guys to have as many pathways as possible to the major leagues wherever they can play defensively. For you, second base, shortstop, I mean, that's, kind of the, not necessarily two sides of the same coin, but at least a lot of similarities. But getting time in center field has got to be so different. How have all the movements around defensively been for you?
Yeah, it's been good. Started getting some reps out in center field last instructional league. But I've come a long way. I feel more comfortable out there now. I think it's just a matter of staying focused. You're not exactly in every single play, so it's a little different for me. But, yeah, I mean, I'm enjoying it, just like Wilson said. If it helps you get on the field, I think it's hugely important for any player.
One thing throughout the last couple of seasons especially, and I know one thing that stood out about you when the Rockies drafted you and you through your college career, your run tool is your best graded tool, 65 according to MLB Pipeline, and your ability to steal bases is very pronounced. Start to this season, 19 stolen bases versus 1 caught stealing with Hartford. This year so far, 8 stolen bases, 4 caught stealings with Albuquerque. Last year, you look up and down the list of stolen base leaders in the California League, and the top 4 guys listed were all Lancaster Jethawks last year. Wes Rogers, your Jethawks teammate, 70 stolen bases. You had 51 last year. 37 for Sam Hilliard, 34 for Miles Jones. I think when people think of the Rockies organization, they don't necessarily think of base stealers, but there's a lot of speed and a lot of guys who know how to run the bases around you. What contributes to being a good base runner and being a good base stealer? Because it's more than just speed.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is. It's more than speed. I think it's just the ability to pay attention to what the pitcher's doing, any tendencies he's got. I think we just fed off each other last year. Wes gets a stolen base. Everybody else wanted to get a stolen base too. So we were just feeding off each other. It was a lot of fun to be a part of that team. And I think, like I said, just comes with preparation and different keys you can key off of.
Yeah, and I know a couple of us talked to you guys on the Jethawks last year and saying there was a little bit of a competition to see who was going to get the most stolen bases. When one guy got one, somebody else wanted to get the next one. Right now, you lead the organization in steals. How much of bragging, or how many bragging rights do you feel like you have? Is that still like a text thread you guys have as former teammates and speed stealers, all that kind of stuff? Is that something you guys still talk about?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I mean, it's kind of like a running joke we have. It's like, you can't steal first base. So I think that's the biggest key, is you got to get on base first, and sometimes that's the hardest part. So I know, they're not too far behind, but once you get on first base, it's easy from there.
Garrett, as a Long Beach State guy, we ask, the big-time college guys about their programs all the time, but Long Beach State's reputation as being a factory for producing, especially infielders, is so pronounced and so well-known. But when you look up and down the list of guys who went through there, from Bobby Crosby and Troy Tulowitzki, a guy who everybody in the Colorado system and Colorado fans are so familiar with, Evan Longoria, who's in the same division now as your parent club over with the Giants. What is it about that program that produces talent to the degree that it does? Because a lot of programs produce major leaguers, but Long Beach State, when it produces major leaguers, seems to produce elite major leaguers. What is it about Long Beach State that creates that atmosphere?
I mean, I think just from day one you show up to the campus, and you're not given anything. You got to go earn everything that you get. And I think just like in pro ball, you got to come ready to play every day and get better every single day, because there's people below you getting better, and that can pass you up. They're trying to take your job. So I think the infield, as far as just trying to get better every day with your defensive skill, and I think it goes a long way.
One of the things, too, in programs like that, everybody always talks about the accountability and how good players are around you. And throughout your Rockies career, you've been kind of joined level to level by a guy who everybody's focused on a lot in the system, in Brendan Rodgers, who right now probably won't be in Double-A Hartford for long and could theoretically be joining you in Triple-A Albuquerque pretty soon. But a guy who was a first-round pick and tremendously talented and a lot of hopes in him and that organization. For you guys to have played together and have kind of gotten to push each other and get to know each other from level to level, what makes him successful? What do you like watching with Brendan Rodgers, and what do you think is something that he would say about you that he likes to take away from getting a chance to play in middle infields with you?
Yeah, I mean, I think we work really well together. We feed off of each other. Obviously, the talent is through the roof with the guy. But I think just like, his confidence level, he always knows that, he's one of the best players on the field every single day. And I think he takes that into account every day, and it's not a bad thing. It's a great thing about him, and I think he'll always be there just because of his confidence and obviously his ability. But I think he'll say the same about me. I think we just feed off each other well. We try to help each other out as much as possible, communicate, and it's been a fun ride playing with him. Look forward to a lot more years.
And just kind of getting back to you specifically, the way you've developed this year, I was looking at some of your numbers. I know you said you're not necessarily a big stats guy, but one thing I noticed was, your walk rate is up a tick this year. And I know for some people it's one thing to just say, I'm going to take more walks this year, and it's easier said than done. Is that something you're kind of focused on? Because like you said, you can't steal first base, so you have to get there in order to take advantage of your speed. To be the stereotypical leadoff guy, you need to take your walks. How do you kind of improve that skill, and is it something you're focusing on?
I wouldn't say I'm focusing necessarily on drawing more walks, but I think it's just as simple as I'm trying not to swing at balls. I think patience as a hitter is a key, but at the same time, you have to be aggressive in counts. You got to be aggressive to the fastball. So I wouldn't say I'm trying to take more walks, but laying off good pitchers' pitches is part of getting on base, and that's what I've been doing so far.
Garrett, that approach, get on base and all that type of stuff is even more lethal when you play in an organization that has a lot of offensive parks and leads to eventually the most offensive park in baseball history in Coors Field. And that's something that I know, especially when the Rockies moved into Lancaster ahead of last season, that being the most offensive-friendly park in the minor leagues, that I know the organization kind of said, we don't want our guys to focus on this. But at the same time, it's a reality. I mean, playing at Coors Field is a reality. And throughout the system, you look at Grand Junction and Boise and Asheville and Lancaster, even Hartford to an extent, and Albuquerque, they're all very hitter-friendly atmospheres. For you guys, is that something that's discussed much? I mean, do you think about, you don't want to get too in love with your numbers at a place like Lancaster because they're probably not going to stay that way forever. But at the same time, you sort of have to be able to tailor your offensive approach to hit everywhere, which means you're going to hit in some inflated offensive parks. Is that something that's talked about at all with how to approach the fact that you're going to be playing in a lot of those parks, and that's what's going to eventually lead you to playing in that at the ultimate level?
Yeah, I think everybody's aware of how the field plays that certain day, but in general, I think you just got to stay with your approach because, like you said, in the next couple of games you could not be playing at that park. So if you try to change your approach to what the field's doing, I don't think it's going to do you much good. So I think just to be able to stick to your approach and you can't really control what ballpark you're playing at that day. So I mean, I don't think that helps to change or think about it at all.
All right, well, Garrett. Well, we want to kind of switch the focus to even before your Rockies career, even before your Long Beach State career. In doing research for this interview, your MLB Pipeline blurb mentions that you were the 9/10-year-old division winner of the pitch hit and run competition at the 2005 All-Star Game in Detroit. Going to the pinch hit and run competition website, it says you're technically in the Hall of Fame for that competition.
Hall of Famer Garrett Hampson.
Yeah, so I don't know if you knew that, but congratulations on that honor. Talk about.
I did not know that. Thank you.
Yeah, well, there you go. Search your name into Google and Hall of Fame and see if that's the first thing that pops up. But what was that competition like? Competing on that stage at an All-Star game in Detroit, in 2005, when you're not even a teenager yet. How did that kind of start your baseball life, and what did you take away from that time?
Yeah, I mean, it was an awesome time. used to, back in Reno, Nevada, used to live like right across the street from a Little League field, and it was always a big deal, the pitch hitting around competition, and so I started playing in it and got to each round, and sure enough, I qualified for the national championships, which was in the All-Star game, and those little guys running around in the outfield at the home run derby, got to do that.
No way! You were one of those
David
kids?
Ortiz. Yeah.
Awesome.
That's one of the perks of playing in that. So I remember trying to catch David Ortiz's pop-ups in the home run derby in 2005. It was pretty fun.
You weren't one of those kids trying to steal homers, were you? Like jumping.
No. Those were all the 15-year-olds stealing from us. But
fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, part of that is the pitching competition. The hitting we know you can do at the pro level. The running we certainly know you could do at any level. But the pitching is also involved there. What were you throwing then, and how long did your pitching career exactly last?
It didn't last too much longer than that, but there was a little strike zone that you had to hit from 60 feet away, and I had some pretty good aim. I wouldn't say I had the best velo, but I was throwing strikes.
I mean, if we're measuring velo for 9 and 10-year-olds, then I think we have a problem. So accuracy is a good place to start.
I think you're right there.
Garrett Hampson,
no
the
doubt.
6th-ranked prospect in the Rockies organization. You can find Garrett on Twitter. He is at GHamp2, and you can also find him in the Pacific Coast League with the AAA Albuquerque Isotopes. And better find him soon, because maybe not for long with the way things have been going so far in 2018. And Garrett, congratulations so far on all the success. And thanks for joining us today. We've enjoyed it, and best of luck the rest of the way, man.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thanks for having me.
Well, this week we are breaking new ground in that Sam Dykstra is sitting to my right and Benjamin Hill flying solo for this week's conversation with Ben. Cats are walking dogs. Is that how it goes? No, dogs are walking people. Cats and dogs getting along. Whatever it is. Hello, Ben. If the cats were walking the dogs, that'd be really cool.
It would also be weird, yeah. It just wouldn't be the alternate universe we're all used to, that's all.
Hi, Ben.
Yeah. Hey, guys. I mean, in fairness, if cats are walking dogs or dogs are walking cats, it would be weird either way.
It'd be a weird universe. That's true.
Yeah.
Either way, things are weird, as we know. But for those of you keeping score, Sam is to my right this week, so now you know. And Ben joins us fresh off of a road trip in which you packed a ton in and got to visit the Lake County Captains, the Mahoning Valley Scrappers, the Toledo Mud Hens, the Fort Wayne Tin Caps, taking a tour through mostly the state of Ohio. How was the trip?
It was great. I mean, I got back, flew back from Detroit yesterday, and today's my first day back in the office. And, as I was saying to you guys, off air before we started, it just feels surreal to me that I was only gone a week or even a little less than a week, because every day was its own adventure and a lot of energetic nights at the ballpark. And, I'm exhausted, but it was all good. I feel good. I feel the best I ever have, actually.
Oh, wow.
That's
all
pretty,
right. Well,
that's impressive.
Yeah, that's a rousing endorsement of a trip through the Midwest. There's two stops in particular I want to kind of touch on before we get into the other stuff, but this was kind of a unique trip for you in that you got to sneak in the Midwest League All-Star game in your trip to Lansing, and also an opening night in your trip to Mahoning Valley when the New York Penn League began last week. What was it like to be in those two atmospheres? I mean, those are different from you just showing up to the park and getting your normal run-of-the-mill ballpark experience. Not that there's anything wrong with that. You're trying to capture the nature of the thing. But these were two kind of special trips in that way. What was it like to be in both Mahoning Valley and Lansing for those nights?
Yeah, I mean, Mahoning Valley I hadn't been to in 7 years, and coincidentally, it was an opening day 2011, the last time I visited them. I mean, I didn't seek out to do that, but that's how it worked on the schedule. They've been playing at the same ballpark since their first season, and I believe was 98, 99. And they've got a lot of improvements to it this year, which is good to see. So they had a new energy, a much-needed scoreboard, some new concession areas, and there was just like a sense of optimism surrounding the team, which, I think ties in with opening day in general. But I think because the offseason had and the improvements they made, it seemed like things were looking up in Mahoning Valley. And, that's an interesting ballpark for those that haven't been there. It's Eastwood Field, and it's part of essentially the Eastwood Mall. So you're in a giant shopping complex with a literal mall, big box stores like Target, and then the ballpark is just right behind that as part of this huge shopping complex. So it's kind of a surreal environment. But then once you get into the ballpark, it faces in the other direction away from all the stores, and it feels kind of secluded. So it's a pretty surreal environment, but yeah, great energy. And then the All-Star game. I never covered really an All-Star game in my road trip type persona, Ben's Biz on the road, and the first time I've been in Lansing in 5 years, and that was an incredible night. Talk about great energy. First of all, there was the East team and the West team, and the East team was the home team. Just from the home run derby on, you'd think that team had been playing together all year round. They just seemed to love each other, tons of camaraderie. And then the gray team, the West, they seemed like they were like the personification of gray. They didn't have that same energy. They didn't have that same camaraderie. And it was something I'd never really thought of, like the dynamic of an all-star team, but it was really interesting to watch, especially being there on the field for hours with the home run derby and everything. Just the difference in the mentality of the two teams. And, I'm a journalist, a writer, try to be impartial, but, in my heart of hearts, I really wanted the East team to win, and they did in the 10th inning. So not only was this perhaps the first All-Star game ever with the new extra inning rules where you start a runner on second base, but then they announced on top of that, regardless of what happens, the game will only be 10 innings, period. And so it was a double whammy of time constraints. And the Grays, the West, did not score in the top of the 10th. And in the bottom of the 10th, 2 outs, 2 strikes, Montrell Marshall, who's a member of the Dayton Dragons, hit a walk-off single to win the game. And it was just really cool to see that up close and personal. And, again, see the way they celebrated and see the way they seem to all love each other. So I actually got a Midwest League poster with all the players on it, and I think I'm just going to keep that poster and follow these players, particularly on the East, just as a fan, because that game really made me just feel like a fan.
That's pretty cool. Not a whole lot of people get to experience minor league all-star games, and you obviously travel around a lot, see a lot of regular season games. What was the coolest thing that stood out about the difference of an all-star game atmosphere from a regular season atmosphere? Because, of course, one of the neat things is the way the home fans react to their own players who were on the all-star team, which, being as part of the home team, which played so well and was so fun to watch, has got to be cool to watch as well. But what stood out that was kind of neat about the all-star game versus just going to some regular season games?
Well, different energy. It's a Tuesday night, which for any team, it was tough to get a crowd, but I think the Lugnuts did a real good job as promoting this as a premier event. So you had a sold-out crowd. It felt like a weekend night. The quality of play, it's still Class A, and maybe I was biased because I knew I was watching an all-star game, but it just it felt tighter and crisper and better than most Class A baseball. So it did seem like an elevated level of play, and I found myself wondering, would this Class A all-star team beat certain teams at Double A, which doesn't really make sense because they'd be in Double A. But I was thinking about those things, and and a bit of a looser, more informal atmosphere, from the players. I got a video. It did pretty well on social media. Just a little clip of there was a pitching change, and all the members of the East team outfield converged in center field and signed autographs throughout the entirety of the break in the action. Like 3 names on each ball, and then would throw them back up into the crowd. And they were so into it. It wasn't like they were coerced. You could tell they just found the joy in being able to loosen up and make these kids' day and just really enjoy the moment. It was one of those nights that did kind of make me like any job, you can get a little cynical or burned out on certain things. And this was a night that made me feel pretty romantic about minor league baseball, if you will.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to touch on, too, that we haven't talked about yet is after that Mahoning Valley trip on June 15th, the next day you went to Toledo. And I just want to ask about, what's the juxtaposition of that, going from, like you said, it was an opening night and there is a certain buzz in the ballpark for, the Class A short season Mahoning Valley, but that is short season ball compared to, the behemoth that can be AAA, especially at Toledo, which usually does pretty well. What was it like to go to those 2 ballparks back to back?
Yeah, well, definitely juxtaposition in terms of Yeah, obviously style, size, and level of play, and also location. As I was talking about, Mahoning Valley being in the back of a mall, and Toledo, Fifth Third Field, is a downtown ballpark. I hadn't been to Toledo in 7 years, and I was kind of there on a dead night, and I liked it, but it didn't make a huge impression. Toledo really made an impression on me this time around. I mean, part of it is that they've done a lot of development around the stadium. The team has bought a lot of the real estate. So the entire block around the ballpark they call Hensville, with all these bars and restaurants and just kind of a party atmosphere. So seeing that on Saturday night, again, just to go back to energy, there was a great energy in Toledo. And, they can provide so many different distinct vantage points of watching the game, not just in this large ballpark, but in some of the buildings they now own, which have rooftop views and what have you. So really cool to get the full experience there. And then plus from my angle, they have a very large front office staff because they also run the Toledo Walleyes hockey team. So I essentially had a guy with me the entire night, just like making sure there was always something awesome to be a part of. And so it was a really energetic night. And I say yes to everything I can on the road. In the third inning, I did the Culligan's Chill Challenge, Culligan being a local water delivery company.
How was that?
And so the entirety of the third inning, I spent in an ice-filled trough on the concourse in the outfield. And it was really something else. I've done the polar bear swim in Coney Island. I'm used to getting in cold water, but I'd never stayed in cold water. And when I first got in the water, and after a minute or two, I was thinking, like, forget it. I got to get out of here. This is brutal. This is unhealthy. And then I got used to it and just kind of enjoyed the absurdity and the challenge of it, of just staying in this icy water for almost 20 minutes throughout the entirety of the third inning. Ugh. And then afterwards, I'm down, like, in the tunnels off the dugout, like changing my clothes and shivering wildly and just thinking, like, my goodness, this is like my job right now. It just felt so surreal. And then from there to go upstairs and start doing some food coverage, I just felt like almost like I was in a dream at that point. So when you talk about a memorable night, it was just whiplash from one to the other. And I probably got like mild hypothermia at one point, and just for all of that to be part of the same night was just crazy. I went to bed that night just like, what happened? And then, had to wake up just in a matter of hours and go to Fort Wayne for a day game, Father's Day matinee to close out the first half of the Midwest League season. And it was like 100 degrees in Fort Wayne. It was so hot. So it was just that kind of trip. But it's a beautiful ballpark, as you guys know, Parkview Field. So it was that kind of trip, just like whiplash from one thing to the next, but a lot of great environments.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about Fort Wayne, too. Great ballpark. It's a downtown ballpark as well. And getting a chance to be there for a day game. I know you got a chance to race in a tricycle race on a day that was brutally hot. What was the coolest thing about Fort Wayne?
Yeah, well, I suited up as a princess in a Mario Kart-inspired tricycle race where I came in a distant third place to Yoshi and Luigi because my
Yoshi was always the best in Mario Kart.
Yes.
Yeah, and I apologize to those on Twitter. I said I raced Mario and Luigi. It was Yoshi and Luigi. I'm sorry. I got it wrong. It was Yoshi and Luigi. I was princess. It was super hot. I finished in third place. Maybe I would have finished in third anyway, but as soon as the race started, my shoelace came untied and wrapped around the pedal, and I got stuck. So, what's a man to do? So it was a super hot day, which unfortunately colored a little bit of the experience just because of how hot it was. But that is a beautiful ballpark in the middle of downtown, and it has truly, this is a whole topic for another day, and we all know that, public funding for stadiums is always controversial, and it's kind of a mixed bag in terms of the results of, how much is spent versus how much is gained. But Fort Wayne is one of those places where they built a stadium in downtown and truly transformed the downtown as part of the ballpark, with the ballpark being the catalyst for that. And so I do think if you want a story on the pro side of spending money for a stadium, Fort Wayne is one of the absolute poster children for that. And it was funny, when I got to the ballpark, went up to the press box, and I run into Dan Watson, who was the play-by-play broadcaster for Fort Wayne last time I visited 7 years ago. Now he's in the city and works for Fort Wayne's kind of, I don't know the exact title, but Convention Visitors Bureau, works with economic development in the city. So I'll have a story on that, talking to the former broadcaster who returned to Fort Wayne after he was done broadcasting to essentially work on behalf of the city he fell in love with. So pretty cool story there, him personally, but also just the city itself and how much the Tin Caps have meant.
And just kind of wrap up the trip as a whole, maybe it's too close. Like you said, you just got off the plane from Detroit not too long ago, but do you feel like there was some common theme to this trip that kind of tied all this together? It was a trip through the Midwest. There is the geographic connection there with everywhere you went to, but anything you noticed that was very similar at all these different parks that kind of ties in Ohio, Indiana, Michigan?
In the ballparks themselves, not so much. But, I flew into Cleveland and started in Lake County, just out of Cleveland, and, ended in Lansing out of Detroit. So to me, it was just, for the most part, being in the Midwest. And maybe it was a good time of year. Maybe I got lucky, with the nights I attended. But it did feel very Midwestern in terms of just being friendly from place to place and just unpretentious, as stereotypical as that is, just not just at the ballparks, but in driving around and interacting with people. A lot of flat drives and just from place to place to place, just kind of feeling comfortable. It's an area. I was born in Ohio. Maybe, even though I moved before I was 2, maybe in a way I felt like I was back home.
Well, Ben, let's pivot and talk about a relocation on the minor league landscape. The rookie-level Orem Owls of the Pioneer League, the affiliate of Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, announced yesterday, we're recording this on Thursday the 21st, that they are likely moving. Didn't say for sure that they're moving, but that they are likely moving to Pueblo, Colorado to set up camp there, which will be kind of a travel partner situation with Colorado Springs, which will have the team that's moving from Helena starting next year. This move, if it happens, would be for 2020. What's your initial reaction to this? Orem has been, I guess, maybe the team in the Pioneer League that would have been next slated to move behind Helena with some attendance issues over the last several seasons, that type of stuff. Pueblo has pledged money to build and expand their youth sports complex, which was a very attractive thing to Orem's ownership. But give us just kind of your reaction to this news from Orem.
Yeah, we started seeing the local articles a couple weeks ago talking about a team maybe moving to Pueblo, and we all said, well, what could that be? I think Orem makes sense for a relocation. Their ballpark, and I'm blanking on the name of the college, but they share the ballpark with the college team
Utah
on a college
Valley,
campus.
I believe.
Yes, thank you, Utah Valley. So it's never really been their ballpark. And when I did visit there, just last year, losing track of time, I visited there last year, and you got the view of the Wasatch Mountains like in all the Utah ballparks. So it's a pretty cool environment, but they don't really control much of the operation. They don't get into the ballpark until right before opening day in mid-June. It didn't have a sense of really being a distinctly minor league environment, and it kind of felt like a little antiseptic to me. And I think the team was struggling with that, with kind of not having their own home to really create a true minor league atmosphere. And a lot of the front office staff is kind of working part-time for the team while they do other things with the university or otherwise for the rest of the year. So there's just not a culture there to really cultivate the true minor league spirit. So I think a move makes sense in that front. And Tyler, as he mentioned, with Colorado Springs becoming Pioneer League, this does create a nice travel partner for them. And all of a sudden, there's going to be 3 teams in Colorado, and 2 of them are going to be in the rookie-level Pioneer League if this all goes through. Of course, the requisite approvals are needed, and I think they need to hammer out some details on the ballpark funding. But this looks pretty likely that we'll see the Orem Owls go to Pueblo. Pueblo. I keep saying, how do you say it? You guys are in Colorado. How do you say it?
Well,
up here.
Don't ask me. They didn't.
I say Pueblo, but there's like an old guard of Colorado people that pronounces it Pueblo, which I think is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. So we'll say Pueblo. Like
all right, let's go. All right, let's go with with the normals and call Pueblo.
Crazy. One thing that's interesting about this, Ben, the Owls have already said that the location name will change, but they're going to keep the Owls name, which is interesting. Do you remember, and I feel like maybe this did happen recently, but a team choosing to forego the cash cow that is a total rebrand with a move is very rare across minor league baseball, especially moving to a city that's had minor league baseball teams in the past and has had some cool names. Pueblo, I was looking on Baseball Reference the other day, had a team named the Ponies in the early 1900s. They had teams named the Steelworkers, the Rollers. There were some cool team names in Pueblo, but they're going to be the Pueblo Owls apparently. Do you remember any other teams moving but keeping the name?
Like you mentioned, in recent years, no. I mean, we're so much in the era of rebranding, almost always for a relocation and also just staying in the same market in a lot of cases, as you guys know. So it's really surprising. And Orem Owls, you had the alliteration and it made a little more sense. So I guess they're comfortable enough with their branding and what they can do with it in Colorado to keep the name, but I was surprised by that. I mean, speaking for myself, if I was in the unlikely scenario of relocating a minor league team in this scenario, I would definitely want to have a new name, one, to just have a clean slate, and two, for publicity leading up to the team playing its first game. You guys know as well as anyone, those name the team contests get people talking. It might not always be positive publicity at first, but that's part of the formula. So to come in and say this is what the team is going to be called right out, then you kind of lose a huge element of creating excitement and a little controversy in the community before you play. In terms of the only example I can think of off the top of my head, I'm sure there's many others in terms of a team staying the same, and it's not too recent. And again, talking about Tyler talking about Colorado.
That's what it's renamed.
We're printing T-shirts as we speak now.
Yeah, it's
Tylerado shirts.
The Denver Zephyrs moved to New Orleans and just kept the Zephyrs name. And New Orleans' rationale at the time was, well, we have a famous roller coaster in New Orleans called the Zephyr, so it works here too. In Denver, it was a reference to a train line, and then they went all the way to New Orleans and were like, we have a roller coaster, so we'll
just keep it.
Yeah, but that was a couple decades ago. We don't see that sort of thing much anymore. So, Orem Owls, bucking the trend.
Going to be strange, the Orem Owls. Especially with the rest of this plan to come to Pueblo. They're building apparently several new hotels, 3 or 4 new hotels. They're going to try to use this new ballpark as part of this big push to host a ton of youth baseball, amateur baseball for physically disadvantaged people as well. So to do all that, which is very forward thinking, but say, we're going to keep the Owls name, just seems very strange. But we'll see how that goes along as this move, if it does or does not happen, which again was kind of weirdly worded, in which they said a likely move in 2020, maybe putting some pressure on the community of Orem. But as it looks right now, more baseball on the Front Range in Colorado, and Benjamin Hill is here to cover it all, however it progresses over the next couple of seasons. You can find Ben on Twitter, where he is at Ben's Biz. You can check out the blog with all the stuff from the road trips at bensbiz.mlblogs.com, and more stuff on the site as well. And Ben, thanks, buddy. Good to have you back in the office. And Sam Dykstra, to my right, I would imagine we'll say the same thing when he gets to see you again.
Yeah. I'll see you soon, Ben.
Yeah, I miss you, Sam, and Tyler, I always miss you because you're almost never around. But hopefully we can all be together again one day. But in the meantime, I hope you enjoy your time, and I hope you enjoy all the time you have together, because I'm sure you'll really have a great time, and it's Tylerado.
It's Tyler.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, guys.
Final segment of this week's episode of the Show Before the Show podcast. Thanks for tuning in wherever you found us. We're on iTunes, we're on Google Play, or everywhere else. Give us a rating and a review and a subscription if you would like. And that'll lead us into our MILB TV Picks to Click. I don't think we've ever used that term.
No, we haven't.
It's like every cheesy broadcast lead segment. Who's your pick to click on MILB TV this week, Sam?
I want to brand that somehow, and I don't know how.
From like a mouse company.
Yeah. Well,
Logitech. Pick to click.
As anybody who's ever listened to this podcast before and knows, we don't use pick to click.
We don't.
We usually, for this segment, we're going to pick somebody we talked about earlier. So mine is going to be, Eloy Jimenez is now a AAA ball player. You might as well be able to watch him this weekend as Charlotte hosts Toledo. By the time you guys hear this, Toledo will be in town in Charlotte for a 3-game set. Like I said, it's going to be really cool to see him play in that park, which can be really homer friendly. Would not be surprised to see him hit like 2 homers in his first 4 games or something like that. Maybe he'll even hit 2 homers in his debut. Maybe I'll be wrong by the time you guys hear this. Who knows? But they'll be going up against Toledo. You'll definitely want to be watching that just for Eloy. But also Kristen Stewart is on that Toledo team, and he's got a lot of power. He was leading the IL in home runs. He might still be. I don't have the numbers in front of me right now. But it could turn into a home run derby at any point this weekend. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Toledo at Charlotte, be able to tune in. And, who knows, you might see some wacky numbers.
The guest of this week's episode of the show before the show, Garrett Hampson, he and his Albuquerque Isotopes will be on the road this weekend taking on the Fresno Grizzlies. And Fresno, no matter what, is always an entertaining team loaded with prospects in that Astros organization. So you can check that game out. If you're a late viewer, you can watch that game. 10:05 start time's coming up this weekend. Garrett Hampson, one of the entertaining guys on the Albuquerque side, but Raimel Tapia is still on that team. Who knows, maybe at some point you'll see Brendan Rodgers on that roster in short order as well. So those games coming up on the West Coast on MILB.TV as well. And hey, that'll do it. Sam and I are going to go have a fun weekend.
And we hope you too have a fun
weekend. We hope you also have a fun weekend. Right. We probably won't see you, but if we do, make sure to come up and say hello. And that'll do it for this week's episode of the Show Before the Show podcast. He's Sam Dykstra. I'm Tyler Mon. We'll talk to you next week.